on our network, primarily as Packers, Eagles, everybody will talk about that. It's interesting because, Green Bay did something in the offseason I really liked. They identified, and you know this, you're as good as your identity, and they were a little bit young and reckless last year, very dependent on Jordan Love making plays, which he could do. But then in the offseason, they said, you know what, we're going to go get Josh Jacobs. We're going to be a little bit more of a power running team, and Jordan Love's not going to throw 38 times. He's going to throw 26. And I like that version. But he's banged up. Christian Watson's out. Jair Alexander banged up. And I don't know, Greg, you've seen both these teams. I don't know if they can go into Philadelphia and win. I mean, are they just outmanned here?
Listen, I've been pretty clear. The multiple games I've called for Philadelphia, I think the Eagles from top to bottom have the best roster in football. Now, the caveat, by all measures, it sounds like that Hurts is going to be back out there at practice and take the next step in the concussion protocol. So obviously that's the big kind of question mark that lingers. But just overall big picture, top to bottom, both sides of the ball, both coordinators, head coach, play style, they're probably the best roster top to bottom in football. Now, how does that always play out? Not always the case in the NFL that the best team wins. So in this matchup, more about the Packers and the play style, I agree with you. Like, that was a conscious effort by LaFleur to say, okay, we're going to put last year we put a ton on Jordan Love.
Yes.
We put a ton on the youngest wide receiver core in football. And they took it way longer than anybody imagined going into the season. We called that upset win over the Cowboys there in the wild card round that kind of started the downfall in Dallas. But the biggest difference, remember now, their only ability to play that run style with Josh Jacobs and be more committed to all that heavy run and take some load off Jordan Love is completely dependent upon how good are they playing on defense. Right? So every time everyone talks about, man, they've got this great run game, your ability to run the ball in the NFL is directly proportionate to your ability to play defense. If your defense can't get stops and Philly goes up and down the field, no one cares how good your running back is. Nobody cares if you run for 150 yards because you're going to run for 150 yards, you're going to score 17 points, and we're going to score 30. So, that's been the biggest difference. I think defensively in Green Bay, they've played well. I think they've and that run game and play good defense and then make the plays with the young athletic wide receiver core and Jordan Love, that formula has served them well. The question is, against a team like Philly on the road that with a healthy Jalen Hurts can score, can run, can pass, is explosive, and is one of the top defenses in football, can you keep the game close enough to allow Josh Jacobs and this really fun, kind of diverse style of run game that LaFleur has concocted up? Can you play?
Yeah. I love that. I love everything he just said. With the Philadelphia Eagles, they want to set the tone. They want to play how they want to play. They want to create the terms and conditions of this game. That's what they want to set out to do. And so they do want to get off to a strong start and, set the tone. Right? I mean, I really actually think it's kind of, interesting. I've been thinking about this for a few teams, actually. The Commanders, the Packers, and the Eagles, all for unrelated reasons. But I think, these are the teams, and maybe the Broncos, these are the teams that I think would actually be if they won the coin toss, it's yeah, we want the ball first. Philadelphia Eagles win the coin toss, and I'm not saying they will, because the Eagles are good enough where they can just no, we don't need this. But I do think, scoring first possession, right? If the Eagles get the ball, first possession, march down the field, boom, 7-0. It's all right, best of luck, Packers. Best of luck. But again, it works both ways, especially at home for the Eagles, because if the Packers get the ball first and they force a 3-and-out or something, or a couple first downs and then a punt, it's that was your best chance, yo. That was your best chance. You had the script. You've been working on these plays all week. That was your best shot. And then now we're going to come back down and march down the field and boom, score a touchdown. 7-0. Let's go. Because I think the best chance that the Packers have is to get the ball first and score 7-0. That's okay, here we go. We're going to try to put the Eagles on their back foot. We're going to start to have them be uh-oh, is this going to be a Dallas Cowboys-Packers game, of last year? Uh-oh. That's going to be the thing. And I guarantee you, part of me almost wishes this would happen just so I could be I told you, that if the Packers score first and it's 7-0, I guarantee you on the broadcast, they'll reference that Cowboys game. I guarantee it. wow, the Packers going up 7-0. I mean, they scored pretty easy on the Philadelphia Eagles. This is pretty reminiscent of what the Packers did against the Dallas Cowboys. No one thought that they could win that game, and haha, look how that turned out. Like, you just know it. You absolutely know it, and especially if it's Greg Olsen calling that game. I don't know who's obviously calling that game. So you know it'll happen. And then the fans, and so it can be a real thing. I'm not saying that would be this like domino effect or anything like that. Like, I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying it's a thing that will be in the air. And I think that the Philadelphia Eagles, they just want to play their dominant brand of ball. There is something to say about playing kind of like a close game or a tighter game, and then in the third and fourth quarter, the dam just breaks and you pile on the points in the third and fourth quarter, right? It's kind of a close game, 14-7, 10-3, whatever we see those scores are. And then when it's all said and done, it's 35-10, 42-14. Like, we've seen those scores a million times as well. And then we always have to be like, well, the game was really close for the first two quarters, the first three quarters. The score doesn't really represent how close it was. Like, the Eagles could definitely be in that situation as well. But I do think, for the sake of the Eagles' dominance, when Greg Olsen talks about how this is the best roster top to bottom, how this is the team to beat in the NFL, when you're going up against a hobbled Green Bay Packers who are clearly not healthy, they are clearly banged up, and they are clearly not playing their top level football, and have notoriously come out of the game slow, of multiple games, like 3 or 4 games in a row, coming out very slow and looking not good at all. Like, downright, like, if you're a Packers fan, you're like uncomfortable. You're like, what am I watching here? Then the Eagles should be able to be like, that's all we need. You're giving us too much right now. You give us those things, we are going to destroy you. We are going to be the ones that go up 21-3, midway through the second quarter. You're the one where you're a team now, you're going to have some players who are like, man, I'm up for a contract next year. Like, I don't want to get injured. Like, you got the ones that are now starting to think like, man, this is over. This is a wrap. I'm going to, I'm going to Jamaica for 2 weeks, man. I'm getting away. I'm not even going to Cabo. I got to get away from everyone. I'm going to some remote desert island. Like, that's what you want. You want the fans, especially you're at home, the fans going nuts. Like, that is what these great teams do. The great teams against the hobble teams, when they're at home, they're not playing this game. They're not playing it's 14-7 going into the third quarter. They're like, nah. We're forcing multiple 3-and-outs. You want the broadcasters to be like, man, the Packers just can't get anything going. They've only had 1 first down in the last 23 minutes of gameplay. Like, that's the type of stuff that you want to hear. And that's the stuff that you should expect. And again, I understand it's playoffs, close games. Like, I'm not trying to say that the Eagles have to roll the Packers to send a message or this or that. It's just, if the Eagles are going to be as great as many people believe them to be, like, to me, that is what the expectations are. Doesn't mean that that's what they need to. It doesn't mean that if they don't do that, then they're not as good as I think they are, or anything like that. That's not what that means either. It's just, you get to learn a little bit more information. Like, the Kansas City Chiefs are another great, actually, reference of this. We see them winning close games, so you reach the conclusion of who they are. Yeah, they keep winning consistently, but it gives you the feeling of, okay, they can be beaten. They can be beaten. Whether that's true or not, obviously we'll find out, but it gives you that frame of reference. But when the Chiefs did play a hobble team, like the Saints or the Steelers, the Texans, they're like, nah. We're gonna stretch this. So that's what I'm excited to see what the Eagles do against the Packers and how this game unfolds. Because I do think there is pressure. There's pressure on both teams, but I think there's definitely pressure on the Eagles. There's pressure on the Eagles to win this game, considering they got rolled last year against the Bucs. And I've already broke down that game and talked about it and why things will be different. But we saw how the Packers rolled the Cowboys. Like, there is pressure to be like, all right, the Super Bowl run starts today. We play high-level ball. We're not going to have a game where we have, 3 turnovers. And, yeah, we won the game, but it was weird, man. 21-19, we were really hoping that we could, force Jordan Love in a 4th and long to throw a prayer, because it's like, oh, man, a field goal right here. Like, that's not the game that the Eagles can have against the Green Bay Packers. No, that's just not the game. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? Who do you think has the edge? I guess that's the question. Who has the edge in the wild card matchup? I don't know how that's a question. I mean, I think it's obvious. You could be the greatest Packers fan in the world, and you would still say, well, clearly the Eagles have the edge. So, but let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.